Hi, welcome back to Faith and Conviction. I'm your host, Ray Harris, and I want to welcome you to this week's Torah portion. We are in Torah portion 39, 3-9. Again, we're in the book of Numbers. This time we're in chapter 19, verse 1, down through chapter 22, verse 1. And the name of our segment this time is Hukkat. If I said that right, it is regulation in the English. And again, it comes from the book of Bamidbar. That's the Hebrew name for in the wilderness, but we know the book as Numbers. So let's take a look at where we're going this time. And we're going to take a little bit of a walk to get to where we're going, but I think you'll like this. So our key word is the second word in Hebrews 19, verse 2. And it goes back to Hukkat. And if I said that right, the Strong's number on this one is H2708. H2708. Brown Driver Briggs tells us that it means statute, ordinance, limit, enactment, something prescribed. So this is very interesting about what it's going to do and how it carries over. Now, in the King James Concordance that I use in the eSword, it tells us that it's in there about 100 times in the Hebrew Old Testament. It's translated as statute and statutes, meaning plural, ordinance, ordinances, meaning plural, but also as customs, rights, manners, and one or two other words. So it's actually kind of interesting. So in this Torah portion, the Hebrew word is translated as statute and ordinance. Now the word statute is found in Numbers 19 verse 10 and 19 verse 21, but it's also found as ordinance in 19 verse 2, and that gives us our Torah portion. Now the name of this portion is Hukkat. And we said it means regulation. But as we can see from the definition, that regulation is one of those meanings. Now as we go through this, what I found is when I went to the Greek Old Testament, it was the Hebrew word was translated by two different Greek words. So keep that in mind as we go through this, because that has an impact on what we're doing. So Numbers 19 verse 2 in the King James has, "This is the ordinance of the law, which the Lord hath commanded." So we're going to abbreviate our verse down so we can just keep focus on what we need. This is the ordinance. Ordinance translates the Hebrew word 2708. The Complete Jewish Bible says this is the regulation, which gives us the name of our portion. And regulation translates H2708. The Jewish Publication Society says this is the statute. Statute translates that Hebrew word. Now the Septuagint translates it as diastale. Diastale. That's the Greek word translating the Hebrew word. So the Greek Strong's numbering on that is G1293. Now what's interesting is when I go into the Apostolic Bible Polyglot, which translates the Greek of the Old Testament, diastale is translated into English as distinction. So that's a very interesting play on word. Distinction between ordinance, regulation, statute, and the Greek word. And that is important for us when we go through the rest of this. Now, in 1910, in the King James, it has statute. The Jewish Publication Society has statute. The Complete Jewish Bible uses the word regulation. All of those English words translate H2708, the Hebrew word for our Torah portion. Now, when you go into the Septuagint, it's namimon. So that's very interesting. Namimon, which is Greek word G3544.1, and it has a 0.1 on it from the Apostolic Bible Polyglot assignment because it's only found in the Old Testament, and I'll explain that here in a little bit. Now the Apostolic Bible Polyglot translates that Greek word into the English word law, and I'll explain that here in a little bit about why. If you're familiar with Greek, perhaps you already are seeing why he's done that. Now Numbers 19 and 21, the King James has statute, the Complete Jewish Bible has regulation, the JPS has the word statute. So all of those English words translate the Hebrew word H2708, which means regulation. So the one who has been the most consistent with this has been the Complete Jewish Bible. Numbers 19:2, Numbers 19:10, and 19:21, the Complete Jewish Bible translates it as regulation all the way through. But in the Apostolic Bible Polyglot, he translates it as law because he brings it from the Greek Old Testament, which again is namimon, which goes back to Greek number assignment G3544.1. Now, this is kind of a complicated thing because this is something that we find on a somewhat frequent basis with the Greek. We have the Hebrew, and it has varied meanings. We bring it into the Greek Old Testament, and it's going, okay, well, how do I translate this? So these Jewish translators of old look at these Hebrew word in our portion, and they're going, I really think that that Hebrew word is best conveyed in two different ways. And it carries one as distinction, and it carries one as law, which reveals a much different idea to us than statute and regulation. So keep those things in mind. Now, when we look at this, the diastole is Greek number G1298, and namimon is G3544.1. G3544.1. Now, go back to diastole. It connects over to the Greek verb diastelomai, which is Greek number G1291. Now, it seems like all this is going to get confusing. That's why I put this information at the bottom of the page down here at faithandconviction.org so you can see what's going on, and you can have a study tool while we're going through the video. But it does connect over to the Greek verb diastelomai, which means to distinguish, to order, to admonish, to charge, which gives us the idea of a regulation. And Strong's tells us it means to command, which also means to relegate, a regulation. Now, Esword says that this diastelomai is only found in the New Testament 3 times. Now, that's actually very interesting because this word diastello is used in Numbers to make a distinction. Look over here at Romans 3 and verse 22. It says, righteousness of God by faith of Jesus Christ unto all and upon all them that believe, for there is no difference, is how the King James has it. But it means distinction. So Paul's saying there is no distinction, which is this Greek word diastelomai, which is very important because the derivative of that word is found over in Numbers. Now, Romans 10 and verse 12. For there is no difference, no distinction between the Jew and the Greek. So Paul is talking about some differences and distinctions which don't exist in Messiah. But in 1 Corinthians 14 and verse 7, he talks about musical instruments, except they give a difference or a distinction in the sounds, how shall it be known? So he's talking about something that has to have a distinction. Otherwise, you're not going to know what's going on, whether it's a trumpet or whatever. It is used to make a sound that makes a distinction so we can understand what to do. And that becomes very important. Now, the Strong's numbering for G3544.1 connects us back over to nomos, which is law, and it's found throughout all of the New Testament. However, G3544.1 is nowhere in the New Testament. It's only found in the Old Testament, and that's why it has a .1 at the end of it, because the Apostolic Bible Polyglot makes this assignment and lets us know what's going on. So the Greek word definitely is a derivative of nomos, and the King James always has it in the New Testament as law or laws, whether or not it's singular or plural. Thayer says that it means anything established, anything received by usage. It is a custom, it is a law, it is a command. So this is very important. Now we could get into a long discussion about nomos and how the Hebrew carries one word, the Greek carries a word, and the English carries a word, but that's not our discussion. Our discussion is the distinction that the Septuagint is making of this one Hebrew word. So look back at Numbers 19 and verse 2, because that's where we started. So I'm doing a modification of this verse out of the King James. This is the distinction as how the Greek would come over into the English, or thereabouts, approximating it. This is the distinction of the law. Law would translate the Hebrew word Torah, which the Lord has commanded, saying, speak unto the Israelites that they bring a red heifer without spot, without blemish, which never was under a yoke, to be a female sacrifice for a ritual purification. And you know that because of the rest of the context. So it becomes very important that even though this is a statute, and that's what the Hebrew word means, the Greek translators are saying, okay, well, this is a distinction in the Torah. This is a distinction in the law. We're going to use a red heifer, and it has to be a female for a ritual purification. That actually is very interesting and very powerful. But when we read Paul over in the New Testament, he's going, okay, but there is no distinction between Jew and Greek. So that has been removed in Messiah. But yet he teaches that over in 1 Corinthians 14 and verse 7, that some distinctions still remain because we have to know the difference. So what those distinctions are specifically is probably up for debate, but in the context right there, he was using a specific instrument for a specific note to know a specific thing. And those who are musically inclined know the differences of notes. You play one note, and you know what it sounds like. You play a different note, and you know what that sounds like. So it is very important that the distinction is made on those things. So the distinction is made in Moses, because that's what the Greek is telling us, and then there is no distinction in the New Testament in Messiah between a Jew and a Greek or a Gentile who believe in Jesus as Messiah. These are the cool things. These are the interesting things that we find when we're studying Moses and we're studying the Hebrew, and then we see the Greek of the Old Testament, and we find words in the New Testament that are found in the Greek Old Testament. And then when we take that Greek and we look at it in English, it really begins to help fill in maybe some of the color and the definition and the meaning that may have been confusing to us before. Why would this be said this way? Why would it be said that way? So these are the important things. These are the cool things that we can find when we do these studies. So it's the power of Moses, the power of Messiah, each testifying one to the other, and God works through Moses and works through Jesus the Messiah. It is cool, it is powerful, and it's very important. I hope it's been a blessing to you this week. Until next time, continue to seek God, know Messiah, find hope.